Our theme this month for the beginning of this new year 2020 is New Thought for the New Roaring Twenties. And today's topic is What's Age Got to Do with It? Each year in January, many of our ministers, including me, visit the first 4 chapters of the 1938 edition of Holmes' textbook, The Science of Mind. These 4 first chapters are titled The Thing Itself, The Way It Works, What It Does, and How to Use It. Last week, our topic was from the 1920s to the 2020s, which paralleled Chapter 1, The Thing Itself. Today's topic, What's Age Got to Do with It?, will address many of the ideas in Chapter 2, The Way It Works. And I promised you it would be adventures in thinking. It goes without saying that we continue to use writings from Ernest Holmes and a long list of other writers, both before and after Holmes developed the concept of the science of mind. We do that with conscious purpose to establish the basics of this philosophy before we expand it into supporting you in using it in everyday real life. So what I would like to share with you now is a little game of that was then, this is now. Here is an example of a quote from the chapter The Way It Works. In 1926, Ernest Holmes said, "There is a universal mind, spirit, intelligence, that is the origin of everything. The life we live is that universal life expressing through us." In 2010, Dr. Andrew Newberg, MD, in his book How God Changes Your Brain, said, "The more a person thinks about God, the more complex and imaginative the concept becomes. If you contemplate God long enough, something surprising happens in your brain. Neural functioning begins to change. Perceptions alter. Beliefs begin to change. And God becomes neurologically real." In 1926, Holmes said, "Knowing that the thing itself can work for us only by working through us, we learn to accept more good today than we experienced yesterday." In 2013, Pam Grout, in her book E Squared, said this, "The God most of us believe in is an invention of man, fabricated for the sake of convenience. We accept this human-made God as an indisputable fact, but that makes no sense. If God is love, if God is perfect, if God is all the other beneficent descriptions we ascribe to him, why would he toss anyone into a lion's den? Furthermore, why would anyone in their right mind want to hook up with a capricious and unjust God who gets his jollies from punishing them? Even the ditziest of women knows theoretically she should not hang out with a guy who might hurt her." What a new twist on the way it works. In 1926, Holmes wrote 175 different statements about consciousness in the Science of Mind text. 6 of those are in the first 9 pages, and in the section on the way it works, he states, "When consciousness speaks, the law receives and executes." In 2010, Dr. Carol Carnes published a book titled The Way In. I'm quoting her saying, "Our real self is far superior to any title or position. It is the revealed expression of universal consciousness." She went on to say, "What an amazing mechanism our mind is. Consider how closely involved we are with thought on a continuing basis. It's a real power, and it has a purpose, which is greater than just thinking about what appears before us. This mind is the outlet for the infinite thinker to express. Our directed thought gives it personality and individuality. Well, of course it does. That's the way it works. In 1926, Holmes wrote, "I perceive that because I am what I am, because of this infinite thing that overshadows eternity and finds its abiding place in me, I know that good is mine now, all good." There's no mental coercion in this. We don't will things to be done. Things are brought into being, not by will, but by the power of the self-assertive truth. How much can one demonstrate? Just what one can believe. How much can we accept? That much we can have. In 2007, Dr. Walker, in his books You Are Enough, wrote this: "The evolution of human consciousness has brought humanity to the point where it is challenging old beliefs that no longer make sense. The belief, for example, that God punishes some and rewards others. We also have evolved beyond believing that human beings are intrinsically flawed. And we have evolved beyond believing that God could or would be bound by the doctrine of any one religion, because now we know that God fills all space and time, and God transcends all space and time. And that, folks, is just the way it works." In 1926, Holmes wrote, "Let us realize and work with this sound knowledge and perfect faith that as high as we shall make our mark in mind and spirit, so high shall be its outward manifestation in our material world." In 2008, Greg Braden wrote in his book, The Spontaneous Healing of Belief, the following: "In the instant of our first breath, we are infused with the single greatest force in the universe, the power to translate the possibilities of our minds into the reality of our world. To fully awaken our power, however, requires a subtle change in the way we think of ourselves, a shift in belief. Just as sound creates visible waves as it travels through a drop of water, our belief waves ripple through the quantum fabric of the universe to become our bodies, and the healing, abundance, and peace, or disease, lack, and suffering that we experience in life. And just the way we can turn a sound to change its patterns, we can tune our beliefs to preserve or destroy all that we cherish, including life itself. In a malleable world where everything from atoms to cells is changing to match our beliefs, we're limited only by the way we think of ourselves in the world, because that's the way it works." So what age has to do with it? The title of today's talk is all about utilizing the information available to us in more than just one way or from one source. The intrinsic value of truth is that as we hone our craft in consciousness, we can recognize it wherever it appears. It's what Holmes calls interior awareness. And we discover that by looking within ourselves rather than outside. It enables us to unleash our inborn power and faith, which is a part of the intelligence and the laws of the universe. By calling that forth, we can easily comply with the nature of things as they are and lead us into even greater success, happiness, and wholeness. And then doors open to us, unavailable if we have always read what we've always read and always do what we've always done. The value of bringing what we've learned in the past into the present is if it still holds the truth with it that has already worked for us in our highest and best good. Otherwise, we can let it go and instead turn to what we have learned here and now and move ahead from there. And what age has to do with it is that in the new age of the 21st century, the choice of words in new books, DVDs, and independent TV channels is more in keeping with the language we currently use, but the message is the same, made more understandable to us. And though we haven't yet begun speaking in the abbreviated language used in texting and emails on our computers, our iPads, and our cell phones, AAMOF, KIT, WAEF, TYG, I have just said to you, as a matter of fact, keep in touch. When all else fails, thank you, God. In today's world, we are so blessed to have new and growing powerful ways to prepare ourselves for new thought, for the new Roaring Twenties in our lives. And so it is.